So good morning and welcome to Postgres Vision 2016. You're joining us this week on an incredible journey that will look more closely than ever before at the role that Postgres is playing in enterprise and in digital transformation. And it's not just a story about Postgres, but also about the role that open source is playing in the data management software category and the profound changes that open source is enabling. I've had the good fortune to be bringing open source software solutions to enterprises now for over 15 years, and I think that's about as long as enterprise IT has been using open source. And I can tell you that through that time, I've never seen a more dominant and more strategic role for open source than I do today in digital transformation. So you all know by now that 90% of the world's data has been created in the past 5 years. And if you think about it, that creates a stunning opportunity for us. Transformation is about change, but the hard question is whether or not at the end of digital transformation will you actually be better? Will you be truly changed? Or will that change break you? And the reality is that you can't afford to wait to change because the competitive landscape's moving as fast as the digital landscape. And maybe more importantly, it's moving as fast as the data landscape is changing. I want to talk about a few industries that have been changed, and you see a few examples here. Lyft, Spotify, in the ride sharing, Lyft in ride sharing, and Spotify in digital music. But let's talk about YouTube for a minute. YouTube, which curiously is becoming the second largest search engine, but maybe more interesting and more profoundly impactful is how YouTube's disrupting the education industry. How many of you have gone to YouTube to watch a how-to video of any kind? Right. So it looks like most of you. Think about this. YouTube is disrupting the traditional formal education market in large part by being the new de facto standard website to publish how-to videos. So people today can learn a massive amount without going to school in the old-fashioned way. That's truly digital transformation. So what does the YouTube example speak to? Business change happening in faster and in bigger ways than we could have ever imagined. And I think most of us already know this. And those examples speak to change in whole categories, in whole industries. But what about digital change in your company? What about digital change in your division or digital change in your department? Let me give you a couple of simple examples from some of our customers. One is a leading clearinghouse for banking transactions. And they're using a Postgres database as a data hub for all their daily regulatory reporting, pulling data from multiple legacy database systems, and then a whole arena of new data sources. Or let me use another example, a Global 100 telco who's using open source database and Postgres, who needed a new way to stand up very quickly an application that would handle the massive launch of the new Apple iPhone to hundreds of thousands of new users joining in an hour. Both of those are examples of digital transformation happening inside a business, inside a department, but at a smaller scale. So let me ask you a question. How many of you are being asked to move even faster than before in your business area? So it's not a surprise, many of you are. But with that speed comes real tension, doesn't it? Do it fast or do it right. And it's hard, as we know, to accomplish both of those things at the same time. PwC did a recent study. It's called the Global Digital IQ Survey, which they do on an annual basis. They've done it in the past couple of years. And one of the most astounding statistics in my mind is how much development is happening outside of IT and how fast the pattern of change is increasing. In 2014, those surveyed reported that 40% of technology investments are happening outside of IT. That same survey in 2015 showed that the number had jumped to 68%. Think about that for a minute. 68% of technology investments happening outside of IT. Now think about the change from 40 to 68%. It's a shocking change. That's 40% more happening outside of IT in just 1 year. I was talking to one of our biggest customers recently in the financial services business. Great company, a leader in their category, Fortune 500 company. They're one of the 10 largest investment management and wealth management firms in the world. And their business is characterized, like the survey suggests, where application development is happening more outside of IT than inside. But here's the rub. IT is still responsible and accountable for the core technology services of the firm. So does that sound familiar? And they're battling the very real pressures of building for speed versus building for the long term. And they're worrying about how things are going to fit together over time. It's a real conflict today. And I think until recently, the trade-offs looked pretty weak. Let's talk about a couple. So there are two apparent answers. And they're familiar to you. One is go fast, but do it with my legacy database solutions and vendors. The second option is to build with new, more specialized, emerging technologies, most of which also happen to be open source. And both of these are credible options. Both have real advantages, but they also have limitations. So let's look at the first option, your existing database vendors. They're pretty feature complete, they're well integrated and well proven to you, and collectively that gives you a healthy amount of comfort. Your teams know the technologies, they know the companies really well, and with that often comes the sense that it's lower risk. The old adage, you're not going to get fired for buying from company XYZ. So, what's the downside? Well, here's what we're seeing over and over again. It's silly expensive. It's a reliable gas guzzler. And while that's helpful in some ways, that heavy investment also ends up slowing you down. And it's one of the dominant factors that's fighting your need to move faster. You stay locked in to that stack, that big red stack, that beautiful walled garden. And your innovation is gated by the absolute amount of company resource that you have tied up in a single vendor. So let's look at the other option. Let's change and go for the breakthrough strategy. Ditch the gas guzzler, let's go electric. This is where I think open source shines today. There are more specialty databases and data management technologies than ever before available to you with open source. You need a document database that allows you to scale with unstructured data. It's there. You need some tech for high velocity or high volume use cases. Tech is there. And the technologies are good. They're hyped, they're pretty sexy, sometimes with a little overpromise on the extent of capabilities they can really deliver, but they're a good fit-for-purpose solution for many of your needs. And they give you the speed you need. But there are downsides, right? So if I go electric, what happens if I run out of juice and there's no plug around? So and we're hearing this more and more from our customers, that they're great choices, but there are also limitations. Because the new specialty databases don't have a lot of history, they're also missing a lot of best practices. And you have to learn by doing, and oftentimes you have to learn by failing. But maybe more impactful is the confusion that arises around integration and how to piece all the different solutions together that are often provided by different companies. This is the very thing that you value but pay dearly for with your legacy database suppliers. Okay. There we go. But what if you could have the best of both worlds? What if you could get all that performance and reliability, all the turnkey elegance of the legacy database with the speed, the flexibility, and the value of open source, all brought together in a tangible ecosystem of proven world-class technology leaders, world-class solution providers, and best practice expertise? What if that was all there for you now? And what if you don't have to discard what you already do well to adapt to the new open source model? Here's the deal. It's not an either-or world. That's not practical. It's not the reality. You all know that. So what if you didn't have to ditch the successful parts of your current model? And there are many. Your staff, your infrastructure, your core technologies. What if you could leverage those assets while simultaneously getting the best parts of new technologies and innovation that can better serve your new digital transformation initiatives? Well, friends, that solution is here now, and that solution is Postgres. It's time for open source database solutions to do more for you. You need those solutions to handle more workloads, both mainstream and specialized, because you're still building both kind of applications in your digital transformation initiatives. And you need to tie together your new solutions with your existing capabilities. You need an open source database that delivers more integration. It has to connect seamlessly with Oracle and SQL Server and MySQL, right along with the new databases from Mongo to Cassandra and Hadoop. Let's talk about your developers for a minute. They're building more new apps than ever before. Some follow the standards for programming that you set. Others do it their own way for speed. You need an open source database that handles all the relevant programming languages that your developers demand, from JavaScript to JSON and Python, from XML to Ruby and Node. Remember the stat of 90% of all the data being created in the last 5 years? Well, you also know that data today takes many new shapes. You're dealing with more kinds of data than ever before. You need an open source database that can process all your data types. And let's not forget about the accelerating role cloud computing is playing in transformation and the value and speed you get from a utility model. You need an open source database that doesn't limit you to either public or private deployments. You need an open source database that gives you the flexibility to run your database as a service in a true hybrid cloud world. And you need to deploy to Amazon and OpenStack and for every other public and private database platform you want to deploy. And for all that, for giving you the best of speed with control, you need a better answer. And that answer, in my opinion, that database is Postgres. And over the next 2 days here at Postgres Vision, we've put together a great program to help you explore that reality more thoroughly and thoughtfully than ever before. And I'm delighted to introduce Pam Murphy, the Chief Operating Officer at Infor. Pam and I have worked together closely for the past couple of years to deliver the first major ERP systems that are validated to work with Postgres and open source. And I think this is an incredible accomplishment and an incredible milestone, not only for Postgres, but for open source. Just a background on Pam, she's been the Chief Operating Officer at Infor since October 2011, and then prior to that, she served there as the Senior Vice President of Corporate Operations. Prior to her time at Infor, she spent 11 years at Oracle, where she was responsible for a range of things in operational and financial functions, which included running global sales operations, running consulting operations for EMEA, and running field finance functions for Oracle's global business units. Before Oracle, Pam was at Andersen Consulting, where she provides strategy, direction, and counsel to her existing and potential clients. And with that, I'd like to invite Pam to join me on stage.
Get up, get down. Get up, get down. Feel the rotation start. See the next one.
Welcome, Pam.
Thank you for having me.
So, maybe we start with a couple of questions.
Sure.
And maybe you could comment a little bit. You've been through a lot of transformation and transition at Infor, and I know that's been redefining the company, but maybe you could talk about that a little bit and how that's the context and the change that's happened over the past few years.
Sure. So just a quick commentary on Infor to those who may not know who we are or what we do. We're an enterprise software company. We build ERPs and mission-critical applications for the industries that we serve. So we're very strong in manufacturing, distribution, healthcare, public sector, amongst others. We're global in scale. We've over 90,000 customers, and we're in over 100 countries worldwide. So that's on Infor. And Ed's right, we've been through a huge transformation over the last 5 years since we as a management team came on board. And our strategy has really been based among 5 pillars. The first one was industry solutions. So our enterprise space has been dominated by highly customized solutions that, frankly speaking, customers hated. And so we set about creating complete industry solutions for our customers with that last mile of functionality that would avoid the need for customizations. We also, over the course of the last 5 years, did a significant work re-engineering our applications to work as efficiently and effectively in the cloud as possible. And so we are unique in our ability to offer not only just edge applications, but complete mission-critical industry solutions in the cloud. The third focus was around the network. We wanted to take it beyond the 4 walls of the ERP and allow customers to do business with each other. And so another big focus was design. ERP and enterprise software sucked, honestly, for so many years, and we decided that we were really going to invest in design. So we created our own internal design agency called Hook and Loop, whose job was to really make our applications more intuitive and more relevant for today's age. So a lot of work over the course of the last 5 years, huge transformation, but the results have been really positive for us so far. So we literally now have over 7,000 customers and representing over 62 million subscribers in our cloud. We have the largest global commerce network in our space, where over 25,000 customers do over $100 billion of trade on an annual basis. And our Hook and Loop organization is helping customers transform their businesses through digital transformation. And our Dynamic Science Lab is working with our customers to solve big problems on data, things like how to optimize for inventory and how to do predictive analysis. So really, we have transformed ourselves hugely as a company, very different to what we were 5 years ago. And, it's served us well.
That's a remarkable amount of change. What about the role of open source as you've been going through that transition?
So I guess it's important to realize where we started. I mean, many of our mission-critical ERPs and solutions that we sold had been developed over 10 to 15 years, and they were engineered to run on proprietary databases and tech stacks. So that's from where we started. And we were very different to some of our competitors who were out there buying hardware companies or building in-memory databases, name your options. But we decided we were going to stay away from all of that. I mean, we were an applications company, and we wanted to focus on building great applications, and we wanted to leverage the best technology solutions out there, infrastructure, and tech stacks on which our solutions could run. And so we decided as a company that we were going to put a big focus in developing an open source solution. So we set the tone to our development teams that we wanted open source technology to really step hugely in our applications. And we also mandated to all of our development teams that all of our ERPs and our mission critical applications had to be certified on an open source tech stack, which was really quite unusual. I mean, you're talking 10 to 15-year-old ERPs that had tens of millions of lines of code, thousands of tables, complicated joins. I mean, we were probably as far away from the sweet spot of open source database in particular as you could possibly imagine. But it was important for us because our customers were requiring us to make that change. They were tired. They were tired of vendor lock-in. They were tired of their budgets being consumed so much by licenses for proprietary database companies. And so we were completely agnostic as an applications data company. We were focused on applications and wanting to help our customers get the lowest TCO as possible. And so that was an important driver for us. It was cost, it was agility, it was pace, and obviously the applications had to scale as well. So Postgres obviously was the database we launched on. It was, given how complicated we were and how our applications were so big, we needed to make sure that we chose applications that our applications could scale in. And so we're at a point now where all of our mission critical applications and ERPs are certified on a full open source stack, which includes Postgres. And now customers have a choice. They can decide that they want to consume their money and budget on proprietary tech stacks, or they can choose to deploy the open source tech stack. So choice for us was important. And we are very big now in the cloud. As I mentioned, we have over 62 million subscribers, and so it's our decision how we deploy in the cloud. And obviously, if we're going to be able to get the same agility and scale at a lower cost, then we're going to obviously choose to go that route.
Excellent. It's a great example. I think you've described the transformation towards more open source and how it's strategic to your company. I'm just curious, do you have any thoughts on where from here? Where do you think open source goes in Infor, and any other general thoughts you have?
For us, I mean, we're very committed to open source. I mean, we've partnered with EDB over the last number of years. EDB was it's been a fantastic partnership, Ed, and there was a couple of reasons why we in particular chose EDB, and one of them being the fact that we needed a partner to really work hard with us to sort of solve for the challenges of our applications being so big. And obviously, EDB also brought with it as well the Oracle compatibility layer and had done a lot of groundwork in terms of easing that transition from Oracle to Postgres. So we're through that partnership and through seeing what the potential is, we're very committed to open source. I think the industry is obviously very clearly going in that way. I think commercially, as companies see their budgets, and CIOs seeing their budgets being under more and more pressure, there will be a lot more interest to try and find more cost-effective ways of essentially being able to do the same thing. So I think commercially, being able to sort of have that functionality at a cheaper cost is going to be a big driver. I think as well governments are also going to, and the public sector is going to see a step up as well. I mean, you could argue that Europe in many respects is kind of conservative in some ways, but you even see them pushing more and more within the countries to drive and push open source as well, not only from a competitive perspective, but also for choice and sort of that openness that it brings. So I've seen even in the last year a huge change myself, and I expect that to continue to grow and accelerate going forward.
Excellent. Pam, thank you so much, and thanks to the Infor team for being here and supporting us. And we look forward to having you here, getting to know the folks that are visiting with us as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you.
Pam Murphy.